Welcome back to the deep dive. Today is going to be, it's going to be heavy. Usually we're dissecting tech trends or, looking at some obscure piece of history that feels distant, safe even.
Right.
But today we are walking right into the middle of a ghost story. And I don't mean a campfire story. I mean the kind of ghost story that actually genuinely haunts you.
It's arguably the most famous story in the English language, and yet I would argue it is also the most misunderstood.
We are talking about Hamlet, and honestly, the timing feels right. It feels like we are having this massive Hamlet cultural moment right now.
Oh, absolutely.
You can't scroll through social media without seeing the buzz about the new movie adaptation, the one starring Paul Mescal.
Which looks visually stunning from what we've seen.
It does, and everyone is talking about it. The internet is doing what the internet does, dissecting the casting, arguing about the cinematography.
Treating it like this brand new, fresh discovery.
Exactly. But here's the thing that really struck me when I was going through the stack of research we have for today. While everyone is debating the movie or, arguing about whether Hamlet is mad or just a procrastinator, almost nobody is talking about the real tragedy behind the script.
No, and that's where the true story actually lives.
Yeah.
It's not in the politics of Denmark. It's in the quiet of Stratford-upon-Avon.
Because Shakespeare didn't write Hamlet just to be a political thriller. He didn't write it to be this great philosophical puzzle about to be or not to be that we all had to memorize in high school.
Yeah.
According to the research we have here, and this is the part that genuinely floored me, he wrote it for a much more heartbreaking reason. He wrote it to talk to his dead 11-year-old son, Hamnet.
That is the core of what we need to unpack today. If you look at the traditional analysis of the play, the stuff you get in a university lecture hall,
right,
you get a lot of talk about Elizabethan statecraft, or the meta-theatrical aspects, or the psychological complexity of the prince's delay. But the sources we're looking at today argue that those interpretations miss I believe the phrase in the research was visceral forensic trauma.
Forensic trauma. That is a heavy phrase for a literary text. It sounds like something out of a crime scene investigation, not a play.
It is heavy. But the mission statement for this deep dive is to shift our perspective entirely. We need to stop looking at Hamlet as a play to be performed for entertainment and start looking at it as a father's letter to a ghost.
That letter to a ghost.
We are analyzing this as literary historians, yes, but also as psychologists. And the lens we are using is this concept of necromancy through art.
Okay, hold on. Necromancy through art. That sounds a little dramatic, doesn't it? I mean, authors write about grief all the time. Is it really fair to call it necromancy? That implies what? Magic? Raising the dead?
In a very literal sense, that is exactly what I mean. The thesis here isn't just that Shakespeare was sad. It's that Hamlet is a ritualized séance.
A séance?
It's a desperate, constructed attempt by William Shakespeare to say to the grave what he could not say to the living boy. The play isn't about procrastination. It's about a father refusing to let his son go.
That gives me chills just thinking about it. But I want to push back a little bit before we dive in because I feel like we project a lot onto Shakespeare. How do we know this? Is this just, modern readers trying to make it emo, or is there actual evidence?
There is evidence, and a lot of it is hiding in plain sight. It's in the history, it's in the legal documents, and it's in the specific words used in the play.
Okay, then let's get into the evidence. Let's start with the most obvious clue, which I think most people, myself included, have always just brushed off. The name.
The name is the key. It's the key that unlocks the whole theory.
Right. So the son's name was Hamnet, Hamnet, and the play is Hamlet, Hamlet. I think most people look at that and think, oh, well, that's a coincidence, or they sound similar, but they're different names, like Brian and Ryan.
And that is the first misconception we need to clear up. It's a very modern way of looking at language, at spelling.
How so?
In Elizabethan England, Hamnet and Hamlet were not similar names. They were the same name.
Wait, literally the same name? Like interchangeable?
Literally interchangeable. You have to realize that in the late 16th century, spelling was incredibly fluid. We have this idea of standardized spelling today, where if your name is John with an H versus John without one, that's a distinct identity.
Right, that's a different person.
But in the 1590s, people spelled their own names differently, document to document.
Yeah.
It just wasn't fixed.
So if you were walking down the street in Stratford in 1590 and you yelled, Hamlet, who turns around?
Hamnet Shakespeare turns around. And so does his godfather, Hamnet Sadler.
Okay, let's unpack that connection because the research mentions this specific friend and it seems important for proving this isn't just a coincidence.
It's crucial. So let's look at the family tree. Hamnet Shakespeare was born in February 1585. He was a twin to his sister Judith. Now, the Shakespeares named the twins after their neighbors and close friends, Hamnet and Judith Sadler. That's standard practice, naming the godparents. But here is the smoking gun, forensically speaking.
Okay.
We have William Shakespeare's final will and testament.
And this is a legal document. This isn't poetry. This isn't up for interpretation.
Correct. This is a legal document written in 1616, years after the play was written. In that document, Shakespeare leaves money to his friend, Hamnet Sadler.
Yeah.
But he doesn't write Hamnet. He refers to him as Hamlet Sadler.
With an L.
With an L, double T.
So Shakespeare himself swapped the N and the L when referring to the real person.
Repeatedly.
Ugh.
In the Stratford Parish records, the church records of births, marriages, and deaths, you see the N and L substituted frequently for the same people. It's what philologists call interchangeability. They were just phonetic variants of the same name.
So it wasn't a choice between two different names. It was a choice between two spellings of the same name.
Precisely. So when Shakespeare sits down to write The Prince of Denmark, he isn't just pulling the name Amleth from the old Scandinavian legend, which is the loose source material for the plot. He is making a very specific, very painful choice. He is modifying it to be his dead son's name.
He's putting his son's name on the marquee.
He's engaging in what the research calls linguistic reclamation. Think about the timeline here. It's devastating.
Yeah.
Hamnet died in August 1596 at age 11. Hamlet, the play, was written around 1599 or 1600. So for 4 years, that name Hamnet had been a source of silence and pain in the Shakespeare household.
It was a word that meant grief.
Exactly. It was associated with a small grave in the Holy Trinity churchyard. It was a name that probably wasn't spoken often because it hurt too much to say it.
And we have to remember, Hamnet was the only male heir.
That is a massive factor, a huge one. In the Elizabethan worldview, the male heir is everything. He is the future of the family name, the inheritor of the property, the carrier of the legacy.
And when Hamnet died, the line was cut.
The line was cut. He was a biographical blank slate. He died before he could become a man, before he could marry, before he could have a profession. In a brutal way, he vanished from the story of the future.
So by naming the character Hamlet, my God,
By naming the character Hamlet, Shakespeare elevates him. He takes this boy who died in obscurity in a small town and turns him into the most complex, intellectual, vibrant prince in the history of Western literature.
It's like he's giving him the life he never got to have, the adulthood.
Precisely. It's a resurrection.
Yeah.
And there's a deep psychological need here that the research calls the fear of being forgotten. Post-Reformation England had a lot of anxiety about the dead being raised. We'll get to the theology of that in a moment, but the result was this fear that once you're gone, you're just gone.
And that's it.
By writing this play, Shakespeare ensured the name Hamlet would be spoken hundreds of times a day.
In the theater.
In the theater. Just imagine the globe. 2,000 or 3,000 people packed in, and they're all hearing that name over and over and over. Hamlet, Lord Hamlet, Prince Hamlet.
It's an act of defiance against death.
A total act of defiance. The deep dive realization here is that he kept the boy alive through collective invocation. Every time an actor says, "I am Hamlet," the boy from Stratford is pulled back into the room.
That is incredibly powerful. It really changes the entire vibe of the play for me. It's not just a story. It's like a memorial service that never ends.
A memorial service or perhaps a summoning.
Right, a summoning, which leads us perfectly into the next layer of this, because if the name is the summoning spell, the casting is the ritual itself. And this is the part that really blew my mind when I read the report.
Oh.
We actually know who played the ghost in the original production, don't we?
We do. And this is where the séance theory goes from metaphor to something much more like reality. According to historical tradition, recorded by early biographers like Nicholas Rowe, the role of the ghost of King Hamlet was played by William Shakespeare himself.
Okay, just pause and picture that for a second. You have the playwright, the father of the dead boy, Hamnet, stepping onto the stage. And he is playing the dead father of a character named Hamlet.
It is a profound psychological inversion. It's almost too painful to think about. We have to look at this through the lens of survivor's guilt and what the sources call the grieving father's fantasy.
Break that down for us. What is the fantasy exactly? Because usually we think of fantasy as something happy. This is just morose.
Well, look at the reality of Shakespeare's life in 1596. In Stratford, the father, William, is alive, and the son, Hamnet, is dead.
Right. The tragedy.
It's the wrong order of things. It violates the natural law. No parent should bury a child.
Right.
But on stage, in the world that Shakespeare created with his own words, the ghost, the father is dead, and Prince Hamlet the son is alive.
Oh, wow. I never thought about it like that. He flipped the script, literally.
He flipped reality. It's a theatrical expiation. He creates a world where he is the one who died so that his son could be the one who survived.
Does living out a wish?
He is. It's almost as if he's saying every night in front of thousands of people, I wish I had died instead of you. And by playing the ghost, he gets to inhabit that wish. He gets to be the dead father looking at a living son.
And speaking to him. That has to be the key, right? The conversation.
That is crucial because in reality, Hamnet is in a grave. He is silent. He can't hear his father and he can't speak back.
Yeah.
That's the brutal finality of death. But on stage, the barrier is broken. The ghost speaks. The son listens. They share the space.
And what is the primary command the ghost gives to Hamlet? I mean, everyone knows the avenge me plot line.
Right, avenge my most foul and unnatural murder. That's what we usually focus on. We think it's a revenge tragedy. But if you look closer at the emotional engine of that scene, the final lingering command is not kill Claudius.
It's not.
The ghost actually gives very specific instructions about Gertrude, about the state. But the last thing he says before he fades, adieu, 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 remember me.
Remember me.
That is the cry of a father terrified his son's short life will be erased. The experts argue that the delay in Hamlet's revenge, the thing critics have been arguing about for centuries, why does he wait so long? Why does he dither? It isn't procrastination. It is the imperative for memory at the cost of revenge.
What does that mean, the imperative for memory?
It means the ghost doesn't actually care about the murder as much as he cares about the connection. He just wants the son to look at him, to acknowledge him, to keep him in his mind. The father is pleading for the son not to forget him.
But in this meta way.
In this meta way, it's Shakespeare pleading with the world not to forget his son, Hamnet. The revenge is just the plot device that allows for the real drama, the conversation between a father and a son across the veil of death.
But wait, why was there this intense fear of forgetting? You mentioned the Reformation earlier. Was it really that big of a deal?
It was a massive deal. We have to contextualize the religious trauma of the time. In 1563, the English Reformation effectively abolished the doctrine of purgatory.
Okay, lay some theology on us. What does that actually mean for a grieving person in, say, 1597?
Before the Reformation, in Catholic England, if someone died, they went to purgatory, a middle place where their soul was purged of sin before they could enter heaven.
Okay.
And the important thing is, the living could help them. You could pray for their soul, you could pay for masses, you could light candles. You had an active role in their afterlife. You were still connected. You were doing something.
And the Reformation stopped that.
Cold. The Mass for the Dead was made illegal. The chantries where priests prayed for souls were closed. The official Protestant doctrine became, you die, and your soul goes immediately to heaven or hell, determined by God's grace alone. The living can do nothing about it.
That sounds incredibly isolating for the person left behind.
It created a massive cultural vacuum. People were grieving, but the rituals they had used for centuries to process that grief were gone. You just had to let go. You had to trust in God and move on.
So the theater becomes a replacement.
The theater becomes the cathedral. And in Hamlet, Shakespeare builds a fictionalized purgatory on stage. The ghost explicitly says he is confined to fast and fires until his crimes are burnt and purged away.
That's purgatory. That's the Catholic doctrine.
That is pure Catholic purgatory. Shakespeare is resurrecting the old rituals on stage because the new religion didn't offer him enough comfort. He built a space where the dead could walk and talk just so he could meet his son again.
That is heartbreaking. It's like he built an entire universe just to have one more conversation.
That's what art often is. But in this case, it's not just sentimental, it's visceral. And that leads us to the darker side of this analysis. Because while the ghost is spiritual, the rest of the play is, well, it's gross.
It is. That's section 3 of our deep dive, the plague. I remember reading Hamlet in school and thinking, why is everyone talking about rot and ulcers and worms? It's obsessed with decay.
It is a pathological text. The language itself is sick with disease, and there is a specific historical reason for that. We need to go back to the summer of 1596.
The summer Hamnet died, August 1596.
Right. And do you know what was happening in the English Midlands in the summer of 1596?
I'm guessing it wasn't a picnic.
It was a devastation. It was the height of the bubonic plague season. The theaters in London were actually closed for part of that year because of the infection risk.
So Hamnet likely died of the plague.
We don't have a death certificate stating the cause, but the timing, the location, it's highly, highly suggestive. August was the killing month. The heat incubated the fleas. And the plague wasn't a gentle drifting away. It was a forensic horror show.
The source material calls it plague trauma.
Yes. Shakespeare is haunted by the specific forensic reality of his son's physical decay.
Hmm?
If you look at the text, the play doesn't use abstract terms for death. It uses medical ones.
Like what?
Rot, canker, ulcers, contagion, impostum.
Impostum, what is that?
An impostum is an internal abscess,
Yeah.
a pocket of infection that swells and bursts inside the body. It's a very specific, nasty medical condition.
And the poison in the ear scene. The ghost describes his death, and it's surprisingly graphic for something that's supposed to be, a secret murder.
It is. Listen to the language. He says, and a most instant setter barked about, most Lazar-like with vile and loathsome crust, all my smooth body.
Vile and loathsome crust. That's vivid.
That is a description of the leprous distilment, but clinically. That language mimics the rapid skin lesions and bubonic botches of the plague. The tetter is a skin eruption. When Shakespeare writes that, he isn't inventing a magical poison. He is describing what he likely saw or what he feared happened to his son's body.
There's that specific line that always grossed me out, the one about the worms.
Act 4, Scene 3. It's unforgettable.
Yeah, where Hamlet tells the king where Polonius is. Claudius asks, "Where's Polonius?" And Hamlet says, "At supper."
And Claudius, confused, says, "At supper." Where? And Hamlet delivers this devastating cold line. Not where he eats, but where he is eaten. A certain convocation of politic worms are eating at him.
Ooh, politic worms. It's so cynical and just foul.
And he goes on. He doesn't stop. Your worm is your only emperor for diet. We fat all creatures else to fat us, and we fat ourselves for maggots.
It's so vivid, it's almost obsessive.
It is. And the expert analysis here is that this isn't just Hamlet being a nihilist philosopher showing off his wit. This is a father in London, imagining what is happening to his 11-year-old son's body in the Stratford soil.
And you have to remember, you said Shakespeare wasn't there when Hamnet died?
Likely not. He was working in London or maybe on tour in Kent. Communications were slow. A writer would have brought the news. He probably got the message days after the burial.
He missed it. He missed the moment of death. He missed the funeral.
He missed it. And the guilt must have been crushing.
So that's the unweeded garden.
That's the unweeded garden. That's how Hamlet describes the world in his first soliloquy. 'Tis an unweeded garden that grows to seed. Things rank and gross in nature possess it merely. That metaphor of the neglected garden represents Shakespeare's neglected household.
He wasn't there to protect them.
He was away, working, chasing success, getting the plays produced, buying property, while the contagion crept into his home and took his air.
So every time Hamlet talks about rot or disease or decay, it's Shakespeare picking at that scab of guilt.
He is confronting the biological reality of loss.
Mhm.
It's not a spiritual ascension, it's a physical consumption. The boy is being eaten by the earth. And Shakespeare forces himself to write it down. He forces himself to look at it.
That brings us to the gravedigger scene. Because if the worm speech is imagining the rot, the gravedigger scene it's confronting it, face to face.
Act 5, Scene 1.
Yeah.
The most famous image in literature. A man in black holding a skull.
But in the context of this deep dive, it's not just a prop, is it? It's not just a symbol of mortality.
No, this is the forensic confrontation. The source describes this as the move from ars moriendi, which was a popular genre of literature in the Middle Ages, the art of dying well, where you say your prayers and go peacefully,
right,
to ars putrefactionis,
Mm.
the art of rotting.
The art of rotting. Wow. And there is some weird math in this scene, right? I remember the outline mentioning forensic math. I remember reading the play and thinking the dialogue with the gravedigger goes on for a long, long time.
It does, and it's very specific. Hamlet asks the gravedigger a question that seems casual but is actually desperate. He asks, how long will a man lie in the earth ere he rot?
He wants a timeline. He needs to know.
He wants a number. And the gravedigger gives him one. He says a tanner will last 9 years because the chemicals in his skin from his job preserve him. But for a normal person, it's less. Now let's look at the timeline of the play's composition again.
Okay, so Hamlet died in 96. Shakespeare wrote Hamlet around 1600.
Roughly 4 years later.
So he's wondering, is he still there? Is my son's face still there?
Exactly. A father's mind performs the gruesome math. 4 years. Is the skin still there? Are the features recognizable? Or is he just a skull now? This scene is Shakespeare playing out that anxiety. He is digging up the grave in his mind to check on the boy.
And then he is handed Yorick's skull.
Alas, poor Yorick. I knew him. Horatio.
Yorick was the court jester. He carried Hamlet on his back 1,000 times. He was a childhood friend.
Think about what Yorick represents. He represents the childhood that is gone. He is the fun, the laughter, the gambles, the songs. He is the proxy for the childhood psalm. Hamnet never got to finish.
So it's not just a random skull, it has to be that one.
It has to be. It is a stand-in. And when Hamlet stares at that skull, the visual on stage is heartbreaking if you know the backstory. You have the prince, the living, breathing potential of what Hamnet could have been, the intellect, the wit,
Yeah.
staring directly at the skull, which is the physical reality of what Hamnet actually is.
It's a mirror, a horrible mirror.
It's a collision. The prince and the corpse meet. And notice the language Hamlet uses. He doesn't just get philosophical. He gets sick. He says his gorge rises at it. He finds it abhorred. He is physically sickened by the reality of the bone.
This is Shakespeare forcing himself to look at what is left of his child.
Yes. Not a spirit, not a beautiful memory, but a chap-fallen skull with no jaw. It is the face of death, stripped of all comfort, all religion, all poetry.
It's brutal. It's absolutely brutal. It strips away all the romance of the ghost from Act 1.
Yes. Act 1 is the fantasy. My father is a spirit, and I can talk to him. Act 5 is the reality. My childhood is a bone, and it makes me want to vomit.
And it makes sense why the play ends the way it does. Because if this is a play about the death of a son, about a broken family line, it can't end happily. It can't end with Hamlet taking the throne and ruling wisely.
No. And this brings us to the legacy aspect, Section 5.
Yeah.
The failed succession.
The play ends in a total bloodbath. Everyone dies. The entire Danish royal family is wiped out.
And who takes over?
Fortinbras, the Norwegian guy, a foreigner.
Right. A foreigner walks in, literally over the dead bodies, and claims the kingdom. The line of Hamlet is extinguished. Now, map that onto Shakespeare's life.
Well, we said it before. Hamnet was his only son.
His only male heir. And this is where the irony stings. In 1596, the very same year Hamlet died, Shakespeare had finally achieved something he'd been working towards for years. He secured a coat of arms for his father, John Shakespeare.
He made his family gentlemen.
Yes. This made them officially gentlemen. It was a huge status symbol. It meant the family had consequence. It meant they were part of the landed gentry. The Shakespeare shield was a yellow field with a black bend and a spear on it.
A huge achievement, but without Hamnet.
Without Hamnet, the crest had nowhere to go. There was no one to inherit it. The legacy was severed at the root. The very year it was established, the consequence was lost.
So he can make all the money in the world.
He could make all the money in the world. He could write all the plays. He could buy the biggest house in Stratford, which he did. But his direct male line ended with him. It was a dead end.
So when Fortinbras takes the throne, it's mirroring Shakespeare's realization that his kingdom, his family name, his legacy, is going to strangers.
Exactly. The maimed rites and broken ceremonies we see in the play Ophelia's Funeral, the disrupted play within a play, they all reflect the unnamed grief and broken structure of the Shakespeare household. The family itself had maimed rites.
And Hamlet's final words, the rest is silence.
He is speaking for the Shakespeare male line. After this, there's nothing, just silence.
Wow. It changes everything about how you see the play. It's not just a masterpiece of literature. It's a wound. A 400-year-old open wound.
It is. It's a document of trauma.
So let's try to synthesize this for our listeners. We've gone from the name interchangeability, Hamnet is Hamlet, to the ghost as the father's fantasy of dying in the son's place. We've looked at the forensic trauma of the plague, the math of the rotting skull, and finally the end of the family line.
It creates a completely different picture of the work, doesn't it?
It really does. So what is the deep dive takeaway here? When we watch Paul Mescal in the new movie or catch a production at a local theater, what are we actually watching?
We aren't watching a political thriller. We aren't watching a revenge tragedy. We're watching a ritual.
A ritual.
The sources call it necromancy through art. Every element of the play, from the name on the title page to the prop skull in Act 5, is designed to bridge the gap between the living and the dead.
It's a séance.
It is a séance.
Yeah.
Shakespeare built a cathedral of words. He built a fictionalized purgatory where he could meet his son in the cellarage of the imagination.
And the most beautiful part, paradoxically, is that it worked.
It did. Think about it. Hamnet Shakespeare died in 1596. He was an 11-year-old boy in a small town. He should have been forgotten by history. He should be just another name in a dusty parish register that no one ever reads.
But he isn't.
He isn't. Because his father wrote this play, because he engaged in this radical act of linguistic reclamation, that boy is alive today.
Every time an actor steps on stage.
Every time an actor steps on stage and says, "I am Hamlet," the 11-year-old boy from Stratford is resurrected. He is given a voice. He is given an intellect. He is given the world.
That is incredibly moving. It turns the play from a tragedy into a strange kind of victory, a victory of love over death.
Or at least a refusal to concede to death.
Mm.
It's the ultimate act of a father saying, "You are not gone, I won't let you be."
You are not gone. I love that.
It connects back to that deep fear of being forgotten.
Mm-hmm.
Shakespeare ensured his son would never be forgotten. As long as English is spoken, as long as people gather in dark rooms to watch stories, Hamnet lives.
Well, I don't think I'll ever be able to watch Hamlet the same way again. It feels much more personal now, much more raw.
It should. It is personal. It is the most personal thing he ever wrote. It's not about a prince in Denmark. It's about a father in Stratford.
Before we wrap up, we always like to leave the listener with one final thought. Something to chew on. We've talked about the name, the ghost, the skull.
Right.
What's the final provocation?
The final thought is this. We are trained to treat Hamlet as a text to be studied. We write essays on it. We critique the acting. We quote it at dinner parties to sound smart.
Right, it's cultural capital.
It is. But based on everything we've discussed today, the grief, the ritual, the desperate math of decay, we need to reframe our role as the audience.
How so?
Hamlet isn't a play, it's a séance. It's a father refusing to let his son go. And every time we watch it, every time we buy a ticket or open the book, we are not just spectators. We are the mediums, helping him hold on for just a little bit longer.
A seance that has been running for 400 years?
And counting.
Wow! Thank you for that deep dive. That was
No.
heavy, but absolutely fascinating.
My pleasure.
And thank you all for listening. If you go see the new movie or any production, take a moment when the lights go down to think about the real boy behind the prince. We'll see you on the next deep dive.